Hello and welcome to this video overview of duels. Duels is a game where between 2 and 4 players play to try and defeat each other in a duel in a small arena. The idea of the game is that players are going to have a hand of cards. So for example, this is a hand of cards, and they are going to be rolling 10 dice each turn. Now, the dice in this game are slightly I should have put those out before. The dice in this game are supposed to be specific to the game. They'll be custom dice, or they should be custom dice, and they should have these 4 symbols on the top, which are the 4 spellcasting symbols, plus a movement symbol and a surge symbol. Now, what does this mean? At the end of each player's turn, so they get a full round to think about their turn, they're going to roll 10 dice, and they're not going to show it to anyone else. They're going to hide it behind things. And then they're going to look at it, and then they're going to decide what they're going to do. So let's say they roll these 10 dice. Let's say this player rolled these 10 dice. And then they decide how they're going to use these dice. Now, ones on these dice are surges, and 6s are movements. So let's start with the 6. Movement allows you to move 1 square either orthogonally or diagonally in any direction you want. So if you had 4 movement, you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, and end up right in the middle, if you wanted to. 5s are the red, which is this symbol. I should probably do this in order. 5, 3, 2, 4. So red symbols red symbols have a basic ability, and of course they're used in spellcasting as well. And red is usually about attacking. It's usually the damaging thing that you can do. So for example, if they wanted to just use 1 red without casting a spell, it would do a use line of sight. So in this game, line of sight is orthogonal only, and it goes as far as the edges of the map. So if you're here, you could shoot all the way to the top, or to the bottom, or to the left, or to the right, on the middle column and row, until it hits something, which could be these, which are barriers. I'll get back to that in a second. So if you use 1 5, you can shoot 1 point of damage to anything in line of sight. If you used 3 5s, because every spellcasting component can be used in ones or triplicates to get a different effect. So if you use 3 5s, you would do 2 points of damage, ignoring 1 obstacle. So so this wizard here could shoot through this barrier to hit this wizard behind for 2 points of damage if he used 3 5s all at once. So 4s, which are the yellow icons, they allow you to move an opponent within line of sight of you 1 space for 1 4. Or for 3 4s, 1 opponent within line of sight of you loses 3 dice from their pool on their next turn. So if this would happen, basically they would take 3 dice away, and then they reroll the rest. Okay? So it interrupts what they had planned. That's the basics of the 4. This is mostly like debuffs and like it's not offensive. Well, it is offensive, but it's not damaging. It's not a way of defeating an opponent. 3s are like heals and good things and buffs and stuff like that. And they are, if you use 1 3, you can draw a card from the deck. Or if you use 3 3s, you can heal yourself or an opponent within line of sight of you for 3 damage. So you can basically heal up if you're getting beaten on quite a bit. 2s are shields, and this is defensive spells, entirely defensive spells. 1 2 allows you to move a shield adjacent to you 1 space. So I mentioned these are barriers, but they're actually called shields. Now the way this works is basically they can move like a player as long as they're adjacent to you. So you can move this one like 1 space this direction to basically move backwards, or you can move it like diagonal around you. So if you're like standing here and you had a shield here, you basically go, I'm going to get attacked by I'm going to be attacked by this guy next turn, so I'm going to move my shield here. and that would be the use of 1-2. If you use 3-2s, you get to create a new shield, and shields always have 2 health to start with. Shields can take damage as players can, and once they take 2 damage, they go away. So that's why there's 2 coins in each of these shields. So basically, 1 damage means 1 goes away, 2 damage means the second goes away. So that's the basics. Oh, sorry, and then 1s. For every 1 you roll, you get an option at the beginning of your turn. So for example, if I rolled 4 1s, which means I have basically 4 dead dice currently, but I'm at the beginning of my turn, I can choose, if I decide to surge, which is why they're called surges, to take the number of damage equal to 1s. So I could take 4 damage, which would put me on 6, because you start with 10 health, which would put me on 6. I get to pick up the 4 1s, I get to take 4 more dice, and I get to roll all the new dice and add them to my dice pool. 6s, 5s, there's 4, there's 2, and there's 3. So I got pretty lucky. I didn't get any more 1s out of that. I got a lot of dice, but I took quite a bit of damage. So that's how all the dice interact with just themselves. But then we also have spells. Now, spells are cards in your hand. Like I said, you get a hand of cards, and you can draw more spells by, playing 3s. Spells have a few different things on them. They have an ability, a type. So, for example, this one's a sorcery. They have a casting cost, and then at the top right here, they have a well, this is their type. This is kind of like how they interact with everything. So this one's a red spell. This one's a red spell, and it requires 4 red dice, which are the 5s to cast. Okay. And this one says deal 4 damage to a target in your line of sight, ignoring 2 obstacles. So this is basically a better version of a 555, apart from it needs 4 red sides. Now, you can also, so for example, in this dice pool, I have 4 5s. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. But if I didn't have 4 5s and I still wanted to cast that spell, so for example, let's say I had this instead, I can then discard cards. So for example, this one's a red spells too, for their result, for the top corner result. So this is a red spell, so I could use this as if it were a 5 to pay for this spell, which requires 4 5s. Okay. So if you have a lot of cards in your hand, you have a lot of control over the game. But the more cards you discard, the smaller your hands gets, and the more you're giving up. So for example, this has this hand here. You can't see it very well, but this hand has a lot of red in it. So I don't really need 5s to cast red spells. So I didn't want to. I could basically cast, Life Leech. You discarding a fireball and a red crystal and a purge and use 1 3, and I could cast Life Leech, which is a spell which requires 2 reds and 2 greens, which is 2 reds and green card and a 3, and that would allow me to cast the spell. When you use a dice, it goes away. You don't, as soon as you run out of dice or don't want to use any more dice, your turn ends and it's on to the next player. When a player dies, I should probably say, each player has 3 of these tokens, and these are called essence tokens. So as soon as somebody defeats, so for example, if this player had defeated me and knocked me over, they would take 1 of my essence tokens. Now this doesn't mean I'm out of the game. This just means that I'm going to get up next turn. But he has 1 victory point. If you get beaten up a lot and you lose all your essence tokens because other people have taken them, then you're not out of the game. There's no point of beating you up anymore. Everybody has claimed your essence, so there's no point of beating you up because they don't get any victory points out of it anymore. So that's the way that works. As soon as somebody gets 5 of these tokens, I think, I can't remember. This is still needing balanced. I haven't got the victory conditions quite solved yet. But as soon as somebody gets, for example, 5 let's say it's 5 for argument's sake. As soon as somebody gets 5, they win the game. So when you get knocked down, you stay down, and then on your next turn, you just get back up again, and you go back to 10 health. So that's pretty much the entirety of the game. You're going to be running around, creating barriers, beating each other up. Oh, I didn't explain this bit in the middle. If you start your turn on a light blue space, you get to draw a card for free. If you start your turn in the middle space, you get to draw 3 cards for free. So being in the middle can be pretty advantageous. But yeah, that's basically the entirety of the game. You're going to be running around, defeating each other, kicking the snot out of each other, and trying to claim these essence chips as victory markers. That's really about it. I don't think is there anything else. No, like I said, at the end of your turn, you're going to roll 10 dice, and then you basically decide what you're going to do between this turn and the next turn. But yeah, that's it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this overview of Wiz Duels.